see our web element theory, but how we can identify our web elements. And till yesterday we just discussed about each element, what HTML tag will be there, what are the attributes. We just understand the HTML theory part with web elements. Now, to identify these elements, so what are the concepts we need to use? In Selenium, we have locators concept. So locators are used to locate your web element and in web pages. Selenium uses a locators concept to identify your web elements. And what are the Selenium IDE and RC locators? So these are the one: ID, name, class, link, CSS, XPath, DOM. So these are the locators Selenium uses. Other things Selenium doesn't know. If you use different things, Selenium doesn't know. Only you have to use these names. Then it will recognize the ID, name, class. You can get them in the HTML. When you spy on particular element, that element tag has this ID, name, class, attribute values. Using those values, you can identify. And in the WebDriver, same is framed in the WebDriver is WebDriver locators are different. All are static methods. All are static methods. ID of ID value in string format. Name of name value. Class name of class value. Class attribute value you have to give here. XPath of XPath value. CSS selector of CSS value. Tag name of tag. You have to give tag. Based on the tag also you can identify your element. So link text of link name. Partial link text of partial link text. So these are the WebDriver locators. These are all WebDriver locators. And these are all Selenium IDE locators. So let's see, we are using a Catalan recorder, right? Catalan recorder means you have to write this format. So this format, okay? So here I am giving a Selenium IDE Catalan recorder syntax and also WebDriver syntax also I'm giving in the examples. You can just go through that, you can get a better idea. That. So Selenium ID and Catalan recorder is ID equal to ID value. You have to write in this format here. So I just opened my Catalan recorder. Please confirm whether you can see or not. This is the Catalan recorder. Okay. So, and the middle portion, mainly the middle portion, you can see here, this is the top frame, and below you have middle portion, command, target, and value. So you will work on this target place only. Target means on which element you are performing action. That's a target. And first you have to create a new test suite. So this will click on new test suite. Object identification. So April 9, 2021. So I'm just giving my suite name. Okay, you will get a suite here. So object identification April 2029. See, now it is a blank. So once I select my suite, now it is a blank. So right side is blank. So to get these rows, you click on this plus icon. There is a plus, delete, copy, and paste. These are all things are there, right? So what you can do is just click on this plus icon, add a new test step. Top frame will add more test steps. So I'm adding more test steps. Okay, so then I will select one row on the top frame. Then I'll come here. I'm just writing this formula for you in the command. Command means the Selenium commands you can use, but I'm writing formula for you. So ID equal to ID value. So any web element has ID, you can use ID to identify that element. To identify that element. So let's take any example. See, this is the email edit box, right? Password edit box, remember me checkbox, login button. We'll just see this email edit box, what locators are there. What are the properties it has? So this is the highlighted portion. You have a input tag. So that's the right thing. Make sure your edit box must have a input tag. Then what are the attributes are there? Observe this. Class is there. Email valid. Then autofocus value is there. Then type email, data val email, data val required. ID is there. Can you see here? ID. Name also there. So I want this ID value. So copy this ID value. And then open your Catalan recorder. Keep them side by side. Keep them side by side. Okay. And follow this syntax. So first locator name you write. That is ID. And what is the ID value for this email edit box? Email. From where I got? I got from HTML. So then click on this start icon. This start icon. Then what will happen? It will highlight. So that element will highlight. You can see that. Highlighting. Can you all see that? See, highlighting. That means Selenium is recognizing this email edit box with ID locator and this value. The value will change from for every element to element it will change. But you have to capture that ID value properly from HTML. Then locator is ID. So ID equal to ID value you have to write. But same thing, how you can write in HTML in the WebDriver is this is the one. The diagrammatically, visually I explained here. You can just follow this. See, WebDriver how to write is this is the one. Driver dot find element. Find element is a method. This is the object reference. Find element method bracket by dot ID. So by is a class. In that class static method. ID is a static method. You are calling that static method. You know how to call static methods, right? Class name dot static method and login the value of ID value. This is how you will call. Generically, this is the formula, and you can replace that ID value. That's in the WebDriver how we are going to use this ID value. Is this clear? Next, if you are clear, I'll move to next locator and ID. So you can practice this name. See name edit box, password edit box. You can see what are all the input tag, correct. Value admin, class password, type password, ID password. So you can take ID value, just double click, it will select. Then copy, Control C you can do, or right click and copy also you can do. Just open your Catalan recorder, then go to next row. So this is the top frame, a row, right? And go to next row, click on the next row, and in the middle portion it will be cleared off the blank. Now write ID equal to password. Now see, now this should identify password edit box. See that? Now it is recognizing password edit box. Selenium is recognizing password edit box. So that's how Selenium recognizes elements. So later you can do actions, value you can type or whatever. The first identification is important. If you are able to identify the element, later it is easy. So that will do all the actions. Every action, one method is there. That method you will call. First identification you need to tell for Selenium. If you are telling Selenium, go and do action on this element. But what is the address of that element? That address you can give either ID, name, class, XPath, CSS, link, and DOM. Any one of these locators you can use to identify your element. Not necessarily all locators. Any one is fine. But why they provided many is because of, so some elements might have ID, some elements might not have ID. Some elements may have name or may not have name. So based on the requirement, you can use that locators. Okay, so that's a ID locator. Based on the ID, how to identify your element. Next.
Ramesh, I have a question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Ramesh?
Yeah, go ahead.
We talked about ID. How is it Selenium recorder? It's identifying the page that you are stored. I mean, like, did we give any? Did we predefine the page somewhere, or how is it identifying
Already
the ID?
that page, right? You are working on this page.
Okay.
That page, current page. It recognizes the current page elements. Where your Selenium is there. Selenium is pointing to which page? That page elements only it will recognize.
Okay, it means that in this browser you're working on this page and Selenium will identify this page, you mean?
Yes, based on these properties. In the HTML, it will look for that. So where this ID is there, that will look for that ID equal to password, right? It will look for the where ID password is there, and then it will go and do action on that element.
Okay. Okay. So if that is that particular any particular page which has this kind of ID, it will identify and it will get that value
Yeah.
from it. Okay.
Yeah. It will do action.
Okay.
It will do action. It recognizes based on this ID value. First, it will recognize. Then you are going to call the method. So that method means what? It performs some action, right? Method will do action. The action will perform on that element.
Okay. Yeah.
So first identification is very important. That idea you have to tell Selenium clearly. Okay, go and identify that element based on this ID you are telling. And Selenium will go and look for that ID in the HTML and quickly it recognizes and performs the action.
Action on that particular page in that particular method. Okay.
Yeah, particular element.
Element.
On particular element, you are identifying with ID this element. This password edit box, you are recognizing by ID. And you are telling Selenium, okay, this ID is there for this password edit box, and go and recognize first, then do action on this element. Then Selenium will do first identification, then performs the action on that element. Generally, in the edit boxes, what action will perform? Type action. Right? So type action or clear the content. So these are the things you will do. Those things it will perform.
Okay, Ramesh. Yeah. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay. So now next move on to next locator, that is name locator. So that is also same. Name equal to name value. You can just see here. So this also has a name. See that name equal to password. So I'll open my Catalan recorder. I'll go to next row. First top frame, you have to select one row. Next row you select. Then come here. I'm just writing a formula for you. Name value. This is a generic formula. And replace now for which element you are identifying. Locator is name equal to and value. Now I am identifying password edit box based on the name locator. Now see, it recognizes that it is recognized. So you can identify your element by ID or by name also. So if that element should have that properties. See, name is there. That way I can identify. If it is not there, I cannot use that name locator and ID locator. If it is not there, I cannot use them. Whatever the properties it has, based on the properties, I can identify that. Next, see, you have a class also, right? So next, class locator also same. Before that, what is the WebDriver syntax? You see that. So driver is the object reference. Find element. You are finding the element in this. This is the browser object. Browser. That browser inside, you are finding the element by name. So this value, name value. So you give the name value. So very meaningful sentence. You are finding the element by name, and this value is password using name locator. So all static methods calling process, if you know, and this is going to be very, very easy. And this is the method. For method, you are passing the parameter by dot name, by dot id, by dot, and this method, static method, and this is the parameterizer. So you are passing the parameter value. This is all Java. So if you know Java very well, and this works out. Otherwise, it doesn't work out. Okay. So that's how to call in the WebDriver. Next, by class. Class equal to class value. So here you can see this element has a class value. See that? Class value. Same, again open a catalog recorder, go to the next row. Next row you can go, select on the top frame first one row. Then it will become free, class equal to class value. So come here, class equal to do that class value. So you can see whether it is recognizing or not. On the bottom side, element is found on top frame. Now clear. Then try to recognize. So we have to expand a little bit to get here. Then it will delete. Otherwise, it won't delete. If it wraps, it won't delete. Now you can see that. Click on this torch icon. It is going to search. See that it is highlighting. That's an indication for you, and you can see here also. See, element is found because that many times I pressed it. That's why it is highlighting in yellow color. That's why keep your Catalan recorder side by side. Your element is visible to the Catalan recorder. It will highlight, but you need to observe, right? For that purpose, I am asking to keep side by side. At least your element is visible little bit. Otherwise, you cannot see that, right? So this, see that. That is how it will recognize. So this is the C with the class also it is recognized. But in the WebDriver, how you will write the same thing is driver dot find element by dot class name. The locator name is class name, but in the Selenium just class. But here in the WebDriver you're using class name, class attribute value. So that's how you'll write. See that example also I'm giving here. Driver dot find element by dot static method and static method parameter value I'm passing. The class value we are passing in between the double quotes. So that is how to identify your elements with ID, name, class. Next, any doubts till these three locators? If you are clear, one more element I'll identify. Let's see, login button I want to identify. Button, type submit. Type is not in locator list, so you should not use. Class is there, so class I can use. So based on the class, I can identify this login button. Open your Catalan recorder, keep it side by side, and go to next row. Next row, and the locator name is a class and class value. That highlighting. Can you see this? Highlighting in yellow color. Can you all observe this? So it will highlight in yellow color. Just clear that log you can clear. So it will be cleared in the bottom side. So this log you can clear with this clear icon. So then it will recognize that element. Okay, this you have to click. If you want to highlight your element, whether you have written correct one or not, you can click on this start icon. So see that it will highlight. So that's how you can identify your web elements using ID, name, class. Okay. Next, how to identify the link. So you have in the web page links are there. Suppose here we don't have links, right? Okay. So we'll go to the next page. See, this also input tag is there, and you have ID, name, and you can practice all these things. You can open this, you can take this website, you can practice this. So that's exercise for you. Identify, remember me checkbox, email edit box, password edit box, login. You can identify and you can send me in the Excel sheet format. I'll give you the Excel sheet format at the end. You can practice that. So let's go to the next page and we'll see any links are there. There's so many links are there. You can, yeah, this is the website. So I'll just close this, close icon I'm clicking, and you can see here, click here, click here. click here, learn more. But fine, so anyone we need to identify. See, A tag. A tag is there. So you have to take this link name, copy this, and open your Catalan recorder. So I'm identifying this click here link. That's a link. So not click is not the link. So you have to write link equal to link name. So my link equal to the link name. You can see that it will recognize. See that. Can you all see it is highlighting?
Yes, sir. Yes, Ramesh.
That's how you can check that. So how it is recognized. But if there are two links with the same name, then how can I identify this? Then with the link, it is not possible. You have to go for XPath or CSS selector. If any link or any web element has a duplicate elements with same name, you have to distinguish properties. Otherwise, it's not possible. Otherwise, it is not going to recognize. It will be, so you have to use XPath. It will give you a unique address. So that we are going to discuss if duplicate things are there. Now see, more info. But I want to identify second more info. Now it is not possible with the link text. So this is also link, I think. Yes, the link. You can see that. It's a link. See A tag inside, that is there. But you can just copy this. But a lot of spaces are there. Let's see whether it is going to identify or not. Open your Catalan recorder. So go to next row. So I'll write so link equal to more info. Here the logs first. It is not going to identify the first more info. It will recognize the second more info. That it's not recognizing it all. Element is not found because it's not same. That's why it is not recognizing, because there are spaces. So we don't know how many spaces are there. Let's see now. Yeah, it started identifying. So which link it is identifying, we'll observe. It will identify first one, but we took second one, right? So this kind of problems you will get in the real time, right? When same element is repeating, then how can you recognize the required element? But it is identifying first element, not the second element, not the third element, fourth element. That you can identify with the XPath and CSS selectors. That we'll do later. So, but as of now, understand if it is a tag, how to identify that element is link equal to link name you need to write. That's it. Other than that, nothing. Okay. And then, so this, there are edit boxes also. See, any edit box has input tag. You might have class is there. This folder is not in the locator list. Only class. There is no ID, no name, nothing. Only class is there for this edit box. Let's see how to identify that. I'll open my Catalan recorder with class I'm identifying. So I'll clear this logs. Class equal to. Put the cursor always in the middle portion. First you have to select top frame, one row. If you are not having rows, click on this plus icon. Then you will get a rows. And select one row and come to middle portion. Write your locator name first and locator value. The element found, but it's not highlighting. But let me try type. I'll use type method. Type method, I'm just trying orders. I'll just execute this line. How to execute particular line? Right click, play this command. It is trying to type orders. So it's typed there. You can see that typed. It's not highlighting, but it is typing. It is doing action. That means this class is correct. Okay. So that's how we can find out. This is the orders. It is typed. It is typed that value. So type action it has done on this edit box. So basically in the edit box you can do type action only. If it is recognizes only, it will type. If it is not able to recognize, it cannot type there, right? So that's the one thing. Okay. Next, let's see here. Logout link is there. It's a link. Set a tag. Logout. So how to take the link name? Close a tag. and open a tag in between, the link name will be there. You will just select it, double click for selection, and right click, copy it. You have to copy from HTML, not from here. You have to copy from HTML. So right click. So I'm using link text locator. Either you can use link or link text locator. Anything is fine. Link equal to logout. Now you see it will recognize logout. It's not highlighting, but it's see it is clearly saying element is found. Now if you do click action, it will perform the click action. Click and wait. I'll do click and wait. Link you can do click and wait. Play this command. See, great work. It's time to upgrade your experience. Okay, so some command. I'll use click method. Okay, if you want to use this some commands, it is asking to log in. Okay, fine now. That's fine. Sign up. It is asking to do sign up. Fine. If you are doing some actions, it is asking for maybe you can create account you can use, but we don't need that much. Okay, so just highlighting or not, you can just see that. That's enough for us. So that's the how to identify elements with ID, name, class, and link. So in this WebDriver, how to use this is, so driver dot find element by dot link text, the link name you will give here. So this is the link name how you will pass. Okay, this is the syntax in the WebDriver. You can identify any element by locator, link text locator. So in the Selenium IDE we are calling link, but in the Selenium WebDriver we are calling link text or partial link text. One more is there, partial link text. What is the difference between link text and partial link text is, link text you have to give exact link name, even with spaces also. But partial link text, you can give partial link name. You don't need to give complete name. So partial you can give. That means contains thing you can use. That's this concept. And next locator is CSS. So how to identify elements with the CSS? So with CSS, you can identify your elements. So let's see that how to do that. Suppose I'm going for the Firefox browser because my Chrome browser it is already logged in. That's why I don't want to use that. Anywhere you have Catalan recorder in the Chrome Firefox also, right? So that's why you can use. Now see this is the link, right? I can identify link. See that inspect element. Even join now also link. See a tag is there. A tag. How to copy this link? Just close a tag before the link name will be there. Just copy this. Then open your Catalan recorder. So this is the Catalan recorder. Close. Okay. So maybe you can delete all these things if you don't want. Close all test suits. Okay, done. So I'll create a new test suit here. I created a new test suit. See, I don't have any rows here. Then I can click on rows. Plus, multiple rows. It will multiple test cases. It will add so that I can choose one of them and I can use that. See that? Okay, done. Here you can see. So link equal to sign in. We can see that. See, sign in is highlighting. Can you all observe that? In the UI, the sign in is highlighting. It's a link. That's why I'm using link locator. Now, so that's not my main goal. Let's go to the next page. Here, you can see this email edit box, password edit box, forget password link, show link, sign in button, join now button, right? So these are all the things. Now I need to identify my email edit box. How can we identify this? So let's see. First, CSS means what? CSS is the cascade style sheet. So this is the efficient locator in all other locators. Your element will be recognized very, very fast than other locators. The quickest locators are CSS and ID. If anybody asks you, so in the CSS and XPath, which one is the quickest and efficient locator means, you need to give answer CSS. This is the interview question. Your element will be recognized very fast, very quickly with the CSS locator. and ID locator also. But later XPath. But somebody will tell XPath. XPath is, if you have a fair idea on the XPath, you're never going to tell about the efficiency of the XPath identification, because XPath is bit lengthy. I'll tell you why it is lengthy and why it will take some time, but you won't feel, but it takes less, more time to identify your element. So CSS by ID. If you have a CSS, if your element has a ID attribute, then how can you write that in the CSS format? This one, CSS equal to tag name hash ID value. Just follow the formulas. Replace tag name place, you give your element tag, then hash as it is you write, then ID value. So ID value means if that element has ID attribute, and that ID value paste it here. That's very simple, right? Like in the mathematics, we used to do a plus b whole square, right? A, b values you get and replace them. The same here also. That's why I used to give all formulas, even in Java also. Very easy for us if you remember the formula. Okay, so that's the same thing I'm doing here. Let's move on to this. Whether this edit box has ID or not, let's check that it has ID. Class is empty. Name, session key, session underscore key. But I want ID now, right? See that. I'll apply the formula, same formula. What is the formula? What is the formula we have seen now? Just now, CSS equal to tag name hash ID value. I'm writing formula for you one more time. So the locator is CSS. Tag name. What is the tag name here for this email or phone edit box?
Input hash username. Input hash.
Input. Yes.
Yeah.
Input hash.
Username.
What is the ID value? Username.
Username.
So this is the ID value. Copy this ID value. Just double click and select copy. Don't write. Always copy from HTML. Always copy from HTML. Then click on touch icon. That it is highlighting. I used the CSS formula. I didn't use ID locator. I'm using CSS locator. So I'm identifying that element. That's one thing. Now, second formula. If there is a class, in the WebDriver, how people will write, let me show you. Driver dot find element by dot CSS selector, and the method value I'm passing, parameter value I'm passing, tag name hash ID value. That's simple, right? So I'm covering the methods and also the CSS formats. Next, so if the element has a class attribute, how can you write in CSS format? See that tag name dot class value. Tag name dot class value. You have to use a dot between tag name and the class. Let's see. I think we have here class, right? I'll log out. So because you can identify here, class is there for a button, login button. We have seen that. Okay. So now you can see here the login. Maybe I'll take this remember me checkbox. So what locators are there? First, what attributes are there? You need to see. ID name is there, no class. Okay, I cannot use class here. Anyhow, we have for the email class is there. You can see, right? Class is there. So this one. So what is the formula? Class name dot tag name dot class value. Tag name dot class value. Just write that. So you can open a Catalan recorder. Okay. So I'll open a Catalan recorder and I can write CSS equal to tag name dot class value. First, I'm writing the formula. So write CSS equal to, what is the tag name for this edit box? Input. Right? Input. Write input. Next, what you need to write? Dot and class value. So email valid. So I'll clear the first these things and let's run this. Whether it is working or not, we'll see that. Not highlighting. Something wrong. Element is not found. It's not working. So I'll tell you why it is not working. Let's check any other we have. Okay, here it is proper. Let me give you. So the difference between above one and below one, what is the difference? We'll just analyze then why it didn't work here, right? I'll show you that. So just give me few seconds, I'll come back to that. CSS equal to tag name is input. Again, for a password input box also has a input tag. Okay, this one. Now it is recognizing. You can see that password edit box, it is recognizing. Then why email edit box didn't it recognize? Same, right? We have written same. See that input dot tag name dot that value. And here input dot password we have written. So can you observe what is the difference here in between these two?
It's a space. It's
Email.
Yeah.
Space, right?
So here is one tricky part. If you want to identify with the tag name dot class value, your class value should be without any spaces. The words between no space. If space is there, how can we recognize that is? It's a different. Let me show you that is a one tricky interview question also. And if it is not a compound value is more than one words are not there, single word, then this formula works directly for you. Okay, if there is a compound value, then so see our theory part. And this is the okay. Driver dot find element by dot CSS selector input dot large hyphen input. Okay, either it is joining with hyphen, that's fine. If it is there in the HTML, that's fine. But space should not be present. Space should not be. But so this is the concept I have given. See, this is the class which has a space. Lot of words, compound value. This one. Lot of words are there, but in between words there is a space. See that, read this statement. If there is a space between class value words, then replace the space with period, that is dot. With dot you replace that space. Then it will be solved your problem. Can we apply this format? Can we apply this note? This note. Can we apply this? Let's apply for that, and your problem will be solved on this. Your page should be opened. Your page should be opened. If you are not opening the page, then it won't recognize. See that? Where is our problem here? Problem here. There is a space here. Email and valid between spaces there. So remove that space and replace with a dot. Now see that. Now it will recognize. Now it will recognize. Click on. It's recognizing. So it's not highlighting, but it's recognizing. That email is found on top frame. So it is recognizing. Otherwise, still one more will take. That class is having more. So class. This one is having more spaces, right? This one will take login button. So for your clarity, I'll show you. CSS equal to tag name. What is the tag name? Button. So tag name is a button. So I have to write a button tag. Otherwise, let me write here. So you can also see both button you can see and HTML also you can see. Button dot value. Now it won't recognize. Now it won't recognize. See that if I clear and run, it won't recognize. You can see element is not found because one after there is a space. That's why it is not recognized. So what you need to do, that space you remove the space with a dot, put a dot there. Remove the space first, then place the dot there. Now you see it will recognize. Okay? This is the one thing you have to understand while identifying your element with the CSS and class attribute value. CSS with class attribute value, this is one. When you can apply this formula, if there is a space in between the class value attribute words, class value words, if there is a space, you have to use this. Okay, so that's the one thing. Please catch that. Then Okay, I have formulas for ID and class. What about other attributes? So this is the one. Identifying elements with any attribute, and this is the formula you can apply in CSS. What is the formula? CSS equal to tag name square bracket attribute name equal to within single quotes attribute value. Any attribute you can use. Can you list some of the attributes?
href, src, alt, class.
Okay, class.
Uh,
Till now we practiced a few attributes, right? ID, name, these are also attributes. ID, name, class, value, type, title, href, src, placeholder, aria label, tab index. These are all attributes. So these are all attributes. So those attributes, any attribute name and value you can use. And then tag name you have to write. So this formula will work for any attribute, even for above formulas also, for class also. Class is an attribute, ID also an attribute. For ID and class there are separate formulas, but for all attributes with a single attribute you can identify with this formula. See, I can apply for any attribute that formula. So now see that. So remember me checkbox, I'll identify. So there is a type. So I'll identify type based on the type. Even I can use any attribute. Till now we have a restricted ID, name, class only, right? But with this CSS, you can identify element with any attributes. So that formula I am applying now. Now I can use type also. CSS equal to, first I'm writing formula, tag name square bracket attribute equal to the value, attribute value. So attribute value, right? First CSS. What is the tag name? Input tag square bracket attribute I'm taking type attribute equal to single quote box the value copy. So type value copy. See, now we can recognize that tick box. See, that is highlighting. It is highlighting. You can see that. So that is how you can recognize the elements. Can you all see it's highlighting? So like that. Even you can use name locator, name attribute also you can use. See, with the same formula. So name, the same element I can identify with name also. CSS equal to tag name is input square bracket attribute name is a name and the name value. So we click on this and say it is highlighting. It is highlighting. You can see that. So that's how we can recognize the elements with any attribute. So I have shown you with this formula. You can use name or any attribute you can use. See name, session password. You can write. So driver dot find element by dot CSS selector and this CSS value. This value you need to write. This is the value. This value you need to write in the double quotes in the WebDriver. This is how you will use. In the WebDriver, we'll call this CSS in the Selenium IDE. In the WebDriver, we'll call that CSS selector. You have to write a CSS selector name. So this is with one attribute we are using. If I want to use more than one attribute, then this is the formula. CSS equal to tag name square bracket attribute name equal to value square bracket close and square bracket starts attribute 2 equal to value. So square bracket ends. So I can use more than one attribute also to identify my element. So let's see here, this button has more than, so I'll use more than one attribute. So you have a type class, both I can use. So let's see how to use that. So CSS equal to attribute tag name is button tag square bracket type equal to, even you can use type alone type you can use. So just now we have seen, right? Type alone you can use. See, it is login button is recognizing. Now I want to use one more attribute. So class. When you use class here, you don't even spaces are there. You don't need to bother about that. In this formula, If there are spaces also, you don't need to worry about that. It will recognize automatically. Only when you are writing tag name dot class value, there you have to take care the spaces are there. Spaces you replace with the dot. But with this formula, if spaces are there in between the class attribute values, you don't need to remove them. Okay, remember that thing. So what is that? With this formula, with this single attribute formula, here you don't need to replace values between words if there are spaces. Only that is with the dot. Tag name dot is there, then you can replace. That I'll write only class with a CSS file. Let's see this. CSS equal to tag name is a button tag, square bracket class equal to single quote class value. See, I'm not replacing spaces. In this formula, you don't need to replace. So get that things. Okay. So that's all about this, how to recognize the elements with attribute and attribute value. And with the two attributes also you can recognize. Same in the WebDriver also you can write like this. By dot locator is CSS selector and value, this is all value. Next, header text. How to identify header text? Headings. So you have headings right here. The heading. Sign in is a heading. So how can you identify this header text? So in CSS you have a direct formula. CSS equal to header tag you write. CSS equal to header tag you write. Header tag name you write. CSS equal to h1. The sign in will be recognized. Can you all see? That's how this header text you can identify. That's one formula. Next, so handling dynamically changing elements in using CSS. Your element attribute values are dynamically changing. Then how can you identify them? So we can use contains formula. Contains means star. So you don't want to write your attribute value completely. You want to write partially. Then these formulas will help you. So this is the formula CSS equal to tag name square bracket attribute name star. Attribute name star equal to single quotes partial attribute value. Partial attribute value, write it. Partial attribute value, write it. So that's the how to handle dynamically changing elements. Maybe your attribute value partially changing, partially not changing. Then this formula will help you. Contains means anywhere, right? Beginning, middle, end, anywhere you can take that attribute value. That's the how you can handle dynamically changing elements. So that's one thing. And there is a caret symbol. Starts with means caret. So this caret symbol you can use. Your starting part of your attribute value is not changing and remaining portion is changing. Then you can use starts with. Starts with means only starting part. It will consider the starting part of this attribute value. If you take second part, it won't recognize. But contains, you have a lot of flexibility. You can take in the beginning, you can take in the middle, you can take in the end, anywhere you can take. That's an advantage with the contains. But the starts with is only starting part, it will allow. And then it will recognize. If you give other part, it won't recognize. That is the starts with and contains difference. So there is one more ends with. So we have to write this formula. CSS equal to tag name square bracket attribute name caret symbol equal to start attribute value. That means it is telling this attribute start value. This attribute start value. That's a starts with means. Next, we have ends with. Ends with tells you dollar symbol. Ends with is CSS equal to tag name square bracket attribute name dollar equal to end attribute value. End attribute value. So this end attribute value is your end part is not changing. Maybe other part is changing. Then you can use ends with. That means you can take only end part. You don't want to write a beginning part. Then you can go for this ends with content. Okay, let me replicate that scenarios. We need that scenarios, right? That scenarios you have in the Rediff create account page. Rediff create account page. Go to Rediff create account page. In this web page, every element name attribute value changes partially. Let me show you that any element you take name attribute value directly you cannot use. That means name locator doesn't help you. If you use name locator directly, what will happen? Let me show you. So this, suppose I'm identifying check availability. There is a type is there, name is there, value is there, class is there. But I'll use name locator. Based on the name locator, I want to identify this check availability. That I'll take this. I'll write a name locator directly. I'm using name locator. I'm not using CSS selector as of now. Now, why you should not use name locator, you will come to know in a few seconds. So clear all these things. Now see, this check availability is identifying. First time it is identifying, no issues. Now you refresh the page. Refresh the page means you are revisiting the page one more time. And I should use same locator, right? I cannot change every time. See that what will happen. Now it is recognized. It is recognized. Element is found, all this. But after refresh, we didn't identify still. So let's see. I'll try to identify that. What will happen is this. I'm keeping this a movable. You can move here and there. What happened? I didn't change the name value, but element is not found. Why? Element is dynamically changing. You can compare previous value and current value. Both are different. Previous value and this value is not same.
Ramesh, what if in the target we try to give the same name again, just copy the same name again, it will identify now, right?
Now it will identify, but every time it will change, right? Your test script will run every day. Every day value will change, right?
Okay, yeah.
Because the value will change every time you revisit the page. Every time you want to create a new account, what will happen? You will come to this page every time, right? Every time you come, the name value is different, not same as the previous one.
But that button is fixed, right, Ramesh? Like the check
Button is fixed, but not based on the button Selenium is looking for, right?
Okay.
Selenium is looking for attributes based, right?
Okay.
Based on this attribute value, it is looking for, you are giving this attribute and that attribute value is same or not, it will check. If it is not same, that's why it is not same, it is failing now, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So this attribute value is not same. What previously it was, this one. Now this value is there. Now currently this value is there. Both are different. That you can compare, both are different.
Okay, I got it, Ramesh, now. Yeah.
So that means these are dynamically changing. So this portion is dynamically changing here. This portion is dynamically changing. Partially changing, right? Partially not changing. So that's why here name locator doesn't help you. You should not use name locator in this page. For any element, if you want to identify any element with name locator, it doesn't help you. That's why they provided other locators. So name is dynamically changing here. It doesn't help you here. So then what is there? That's what I have given formula. The contains formula you can use. So contains formula you can use here. So CSS equal to tag name, square bracket, attribute name, star. Star means contains, and partial attribute value. Partial value only you write. Don't write complete value. So now I am doing that. CSS equal to tag name is input tag. Square bracket, which attribute you are identifying? Name attribute. Star. Before we didn't give star, but we are giving star means that attribute value is dynamically changing. Or I am cutting down my name attribute value. I'm not giving complete attribute value. So I'll give only partial one. This one till here only I'll give. This portion only I'll give. BTN, CHK, avail I only I'll give. Other part I'm not giving. That is the problem one now. It is dynamically changing. That's why I don't want to give dynamically changing one. So I'll give which is constant I'm giving that single quotes inside, you put that value. So that, now we do recognize. Now you refresh also. You don't need to change your XPath. Sorry, your object identification CSS value. That I refresh it. Still the same CSS selector is working for us. Same CSS selector is working for us. That's kind of robust object identification you have to build. Not one time it is passing, another time failing means it's not proper object identification you have given to Selenium. Then Selenium will say, okay, no, I cannot identify this, whatever you have given. Then it will throw an exception, no such element exception. Then your test script will stop there. Okay.
Ramesh, quick question. How to identify which elements are dynamically changes? Is there any way that we can identify?
Completely changes.
Dynamically changes. How to identify which elements are dynamically changing? Here, the
Okay.
name is
How
dynamically changed.
Okay. How to recognize them?
How to
That's your
recognize
question.
them?
Yeah. Suppose basically what you will, while coding, you will run the test script multiple times locally, right, in your Eclipse. So first time when you run, you will give one locator and you're running. Second time you run, it will fail, right? It will fail for you. Then you will look why it is failing. What locator it is failing, or line number it will give you. Then the exception you read. Then it will say, okay, this element is not identifiable with this locator. It will tell very clearly. That means now you go to the again that page and you will identify on that element and you will check what is the problem. Same value is there, whatever you have given in the test code, or is it same or different? Then you will compare. With that only you can find out. Directly we cannot find out.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Based on your test script you will run locally first. First time when you preparing all this object identifications, you won't come to know. But when you're running time and this value will change, right? Obviously, then you can understand, okay, this value is changing. So I need to change my object identification strategy. Then you will realize that. That's one challenging task, this one in the automation. So how to handle this? These are the formulas you have to apply. These are the formulas you have to apply. So next I can apply same thing with starts with also. Because starts with also same, right? The starting part, right? This is the, but BTN check cover is the starting part, right? So starting part. This is the starting part of name attribute. I can write the formula with this one. So give me a few minutes. We'll close this CSS. I'm just dragging a little bit. So name, caret symbol, single quote, availability. It's even you refresh also, it doesn't matter. So even that value, whatever is there, it doesn't matter for us. And these formulas will work for you always. That it is recognizing. So that's the advantage with these things. So maybe you can see one more last $1 ends with, I'll show you. See here, check and availability. So our BTN underscore check avail. Either you can use value attribute. Let me use value attribute. Value attribute we didn't use, right? I'll use value attribute with ends with content. What I'm going to do, CSS equal to tag name is input, square bracket, value attribute. I'm using a dollar symbol. Dollar means ends with. So ending part I'll give. I'll remove check. I'll remove check. I don't want to give check beginning part. Only ending part I'm passing. Value attribute end part I'm giving. So you can see here. Value end part is, so value end part is, so you can observe value part is check availability. Check availability. Availability is the end part. But so I have given completely only this availability only I have given. Availability only I have given. So automatically it will recognize now. And even if it changes also, see that it is highlighting. Because I have given a dollar symbol. That's why. If you don't give dollar symbol, it won't recognize. See that. If I don't give dollar, then it will say failure. I cannot recognize that. That's why you need a dollar symbol. Dollar symbol will tell you, okay, value end part you can take. So that will how you can change. You can observe that maybe beginning part you don't want to give or it is changing. Then you are giving the end part. Beginning part is changing. That's why you are giving the end part. So that's how we can use this all dynamically changing values. Okay. That's all about all CSS formulas. You can see here all CSS formulas. That's all about all CSS formulas. So tomorrow we'll see XPath and then we'll go further. XPath takes little bit time, 2-3 classes. 3 classes minimum. We need 3 classes for the XPath. And a lot of questions also they will ask you in the XPath. So the exercise for you all is to take up this anything. So you go here and go to Rediff. No, Rediff I already given there. What you can do, you can take up a Facebook. So Facebook homepage. Take up the Facebook homepage. Here you identify email edit box, password edit box, login button, forget password link, create new account button, and then this Facebook logo. So Facebook logo, yeah, IMG image. There is a class value. Using class, you can identify and write and send it to me in this format. Let me show you the format. This is all exercise for everyone has to do. If you are missing these exercises, and Selenium is going to be a bigger problem for you. So don't miss. You go your own websites and try it out. Right? You go your own websites and try it out. It doesn't matter. You need to go only for this particular specified website. It's up to you. Any website that you know concepts, apply the concepts. Concepts is same for any web applications. So now going to change. So element name. So what is the locator you want to use? So locator, which locator you want to use? So you write the formula. So what formula used? Or what is the final value? What is the final value? Right? So give this table. So element name. Suppose if I take a simple element. So let me take this email edit box. So I'm taking email edit box. You have to write like that. You have to write how I am writing email edit box. You have to write name and category of element. Otherwise, only write if email. Who will understand what is email? Is it a text? Is it a what kind of element is that? That's why you have to prefix postfix name plus type of element. Mandate. That's why email is the name and type of element is edit box. Edit box, button, tick box, radio button. This is the type of element I already given. So I can identify with the ID locator. So formula I'm using ID equal to ID value. And final value you write in the Catalan recorder, then you write here. So Catalan recorder you first write. So you know that ID value, right? Copy this ID value. Here is the ID value. Where is the ID? This is the ID. You check first in the Catalan recorder and then write here. Like this. Then same element you can identify with name also. You write name. Name equal to name value. You write so name equal to I think email only, right? Email. And class is there. Write class also. So class equal to class value. If you can identify class equal to class value, you can write class equal to class value. So what are the class values? So the class value same you can write with CSS also. CSS with ID. Write CSS with ID. And then you can write CSS with name. You can write CSS with class like this. You practice all the formulas and it will make you very, very strong. CSS equal to tag name hash ID value. This is a formula. So replace that same CSS equal to tag name is input tag hash ID value. So email. Same you do with name, class, and other things. And practice for all these elements. So all these elements you practice and go for other whichever it's a website you want to go. It's up to you. You can go here even heading also there. You can use this heading. This even LinkedIn also you can go and practice all these things. Okay. So sign in page you go. You will get all these things. So this you need to send for me the same format. Same format, you need to send it to me. So I'll ping you this format for you in the email. So I want you, everyone, do this. If you are not doing, I'm not responsible in the Selenium one. Frankly, I'm telling, I'm not responsible for in the Selenium. If you are not practicing, this is going to be a bigger problem there. Without this concept, there is no Selenium code. So please practice this effectively. Different websites you go and practice and come back. So if your doubts, you come back. You take if you are already working, you take up your own website. Anybody missing? All are there, I think. So with that format, you just do that. Okay. So that's it.